College. It's supposed to be a place of independence, new friendships, and unforgettable memories. But there are some memories no one should have to live with. Those that haunt the mind and send chills down your spine, no matter how many years pass. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 real college horror stories that will make you question just how safe your campus really is. It was late fall, right before the chaos of finals, and I was a freshman at a small college in Pennsylvania. My roommate, Sarah, left for the weekend to visit her family, leaving me alone in our tiny dorm room. I remember thinking, finally, some quiet, just me, a few books, and a few days to unwind. Or, at least that's what I thought. The first night was normal. I binge-watched a few shows, got cozy, and drifted off to sleep without a worry. But then came the second night, the night that still haunts me. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of soft shuffling. At first, I thought it was Sarah, maybe coming back early. But the room was pitch dark, and her bed was untouched. I lay there, holding my breath, trying to make sense of the noise. It sounded like footsteps, slow and deliberate, but somehow softer. It was coming closer, inching toward my bed. I told myself it had to be a draft or something, just a trick of the mind. But then, as my eyes adjusted to the dark, I saw it, a faint shadow, standing silently at the edge of my bed. Not moving, not breathing, just there. I felt frozen. Every instinct told me to scream, to move, but I was paralyzed. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might break through my chest. The figure leaned closer, and the air around me grew icy. I heard something, just the faintest whisper, almost too quiet to make out, but it sounded like it was saying my name. Emily. I shut my eyes, clenching them tight, praying that when I opened them, it would be gone. But when I peeked, it was still there, unmoving, watching. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the shadow dissolved into the darkness. I fumbled for the light, hands shaking, and flicked it on. The room was empty, everything in its place. I convinced myself it was just a nightmare, but the next morning, I found something that made my blood run cold. My textbooks and papers were scattered all over the desk, with dark smudges, almost like fingerprints, but too small, too faint. Sarah and I requested a room change that very day, but I'll never forget that shadow. And sometimes, in my worst dreams, I still see it standing by my bed, whispering my name. Our college library was like something out of an old horror novel, dusty, ancient, and with winding hallways that felt endless. But it wasn't the main library that people feared. It was the basement. It was where the oldest archives were stored, documents that no one needed or wanted to see. Most people avoided it, but I needed to go down there for my history thesis. So, on a freezing winter night, when the campus was nearly deserted, I made the decision to face that basement alone. As I went down the narrow, creaky staircase, the temperature dropped with each step. It felt like the basement was a world unto itself, completely cut off from the rest of the building. The only light was a dim, flickering bulb that cast long shadows down the aisles. The walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating, watching. I made my way through the rows of dusty shelves, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. I started searching for the files I needed, focusing on my task, trying to ignore that feeling in the back of my mind that I was not alone. And then, I heard it. A faint whisper. Shh. It felt like it was right behind me. I turned around, but there was nothing. Just shadows and the faint hum of the flickering light. I told myself it was my imagination, an echo. But then it happened again, louder this time, like it was closer, like it was right next to my ear. I swung my flashlight around, and that's when I saw it. A figure, hunched and pale with empty, hollow eyes. It was crouched at the end of the aisle, staring at me. My heart raced and I could barely breathe. I blinked, hoping it would disappear, but it didn't. It just stared, unblinking, silent. I backed up, ready to make a break for the stairs, when suddenly I felt something cold wrap around my arm. It felt like skeletal fingers pressing into my skin. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. I yanked my arm free, stumbling, and sprinted up the stairs, not daring to look back. I had bruises on my arm for days, faint but real. And sometimes when the library is empty and the basement is dead quiet, students say they can hear that same whispered shh echoing through the dark, like someone still watching. This last story, I wasn't sure I'd share it. It didn't happen to me, but to a friend of mine named Emma. She attended college in Massachusetts, and to this day, she swears this story is true. Emma had been assigned a new roommate, Lisa, halfway through her sophomore year. Lisa was quiet, distant, always hiding under oversized hoodies and keeping to herself. One night, Emma returned from the library late, exhausted. When she entered the room, she saw Lisa lying in bed, facing the wall, mumbling to herself. It was strange, but Emma didn't think much of it. Everyone has off nights,
But things got weirder. Lisa's behavior became more unsettling over the next few days. She'd sit on her bed, rocking back and forth, whispering words Emma couldn't understand. She'd stare at the walls for hours. Emma tried talking to her, asking if she was okay, but Lisa wouldn't even acknowledge her, like Emma was invisible. Then, one morning, Emma woke up to find Lisa's bed empty, neatly made, with all her belongings gone. Finally, Emma thought, maybe Lisa had moved out. Maybe she'd gone home. That night, she went to bed relieved, finally alone. But as Emma lay there, drifting off, she felt a sudden tug at her blankets. She looked over, and there, on Lisa's bed, was a dark figure hunched over, staring at her with its head tilted at an unnatural angle. Emma felt the air leave her lungs, her body frozen in terror. She screamed, reaching for the light, but the second she turned it on, the figure vanished. The next day, she told her resident assistant everything. She described Lisa, her strange behavior, the night she vanished. The RA's face went pale, and what she told Emma made her blood run cold. There had never been a transfer student named Lisa. There was no record of anyone by that name in the dorm. And then, the RA shared something else. 3 years ago, a student had died in that very room. Her name was Lisa. And since then, strange sightings had been reported in that dorm room. Figures, whispers, shadows that wouldn't disappear. Emma moved out immediately, but every so often, a new student reports the same strange happenings. Lisa's spirit, it seems, never left, still waiting, and watching as if she's searching for someone to join her. These stories remind us that the scariest things aren't always in the forests or abandoned buildings. Sometimes they're in the places we trust the most, right under our noses. Thank you for joining me tonight. If you're ready for more bone-chilling tales, I have another video on true school lockdown horror stories waiting for you. Click on the screen to dive even deeper into the darkness.